in which that's true if you say, look, these drugs, all their therapeutic effect is just based on their pharmacokinetics, and so, they're essentially acting the same way. And they all have the same side effect profile, so it doesn't really matter. But, that's basically ignoring half of the available drugs out there and not taking advantage of them. And I don't think that this is the problem, that people are all using benzodiazepines or Ambien and they're because mainly they're doing things like probably trazodone. Maybe some are using Ambien in everybody, but I so often hear one drug choice, like one of the ways this comes up, and I'm assuming you guys get this as well, is I get asked the question, which insomnia drug should I use? Like, which one insomnia drug? What's the best insomnia drug? I think that question has been asked to me probably more than 100 times. And then I have to say, that is not the right question to ask. You have to step back a second and think about, this in a broader way. So I think we walked through that there are differences in therapeutic effect. I'm not going to repeat them, but you just heard them, and also in terms of side effects that stack up to me on the con side. So overall, I think the literature strongly contradicts the statement that all insomnia medications have similar overall clinical effects, and it doesn't really matter which one you use to treat insomnia patients. It is only possible to conclude that that statement is correct if you do something that just doesn't make sense, not consider the data on anything but the GABA-A positive allosteric modulators, not considering time of night of patient problems and therapeutic effects that in terms of lining them up, or not trying to tailor the side effects of the drug to the needs of the patient. I think that's indefensible, in my view. So I'm going to stop there, and I think we should first vote. Is that the...
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think the survey is going to show? Is it going to, the first time it's going to be skewed, or is it still going to be the distributed mess?
We shall
What do you
see.
think?
It's been skewed a number of times.
Right. But the surveys had there's never been a single answer that everybody agrees to in a survey.
That's true.
This one might be one. I'm wondering, or you think
Not
no?
sure. I don't.
It's 100%.
I think it'll be more.
Not 100, but it'll be more prominent because there's kind of a
70.
distribution.
I think it'll be like the last two we saw.
70%.
Predominant one.
Let's just try to predict what we're going to see.
There it is. Now it just came out.
Slido.
Something changed.
Something changed. Yeah.
Just came out. Oops, it went away again.
Yeah, we haven't gotten the second question yet. That's done.
No.
No, it's right.
Oh, wait. I
Statement
haven't voted
8,
on
how
that yet.
strong is that?
Oh, okay, wait.
supporting the statement?
We were trying to see if we could prevent your vote from counting on
Ah,
this.
you missed the
Not
14%.
unreasonable.
Ding. There you go. Cool.
I did have question envy.
This one is in terms of how much you agree or disagree. Again, 1 is strongly agree, 6 is strongly disagree.
John, how do you think your son would answer this question?
Luckily, he's cut back on his use of marijuana.
Ooh.
Oh, you meant the schizophrenia question? I think he just did random.
No, I was guessing the survey. I was talking about the survey.
Wait a second. So they.
Oh, you're talking about the field survey.
Yeah,
The field surveys I'm curious about.
Oh, okay.
So,
Sorry, John.
Right.
this is all of you right
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
Post hearing Dr. Crystal, you all disagree pretty strongly.
What did we say before?
A little more tempered.
So, this is what you said.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite
Maybe
a
not
shift.
read it correctly.
Very
One more
convincing.
Moved up.
variation. And this is what the field said.
Yeah. There you go.
See,
For the
that's
first
very
time, it's
similar.
kind of more in line.
Right.
But they
As you
agree.
surmised.
That's interesting.
Very
I would-
high
No,
on
strongly
strongly
disagree.
disagree.
Same way
They
agree
No,
with us.
They agree with us.
Correct. For the first time, we
Yeah.
see it.
Right.
It's the first one that's aligned properly.
This is actually the highest
Agreement.
Correlation.
correlation, right?
Yes.
So we have 81% strongly disagreeing, as compared to 86% for the panel,
Maybe for different reasons, but it's still the first time it lines up.
right?
So less need maybe for education.
About
That difference
mechanisms.
is.
Oh, but I mean, there's still 20% out there saying absolutely, it's all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
You know,
I worry that this might be because they're focusing on the issue that yes, it does matter because if you give one of those awful drugs, there's a risk of abuse and dependence.
Balls and all.
Yeah, and all that stuff. They may be like it may.
Yeah.
and I know that a couple of our doctors are also bringing up not just class differences or mechanism of action, but also patient differences. Like we have one saying the patient reports different responses to lorazepam and alprazolam
There you go.
There you
in
go.
the effectiveness of
Yeah.
insomnia, and they're in the same family. Right.
There you go.
And another person says all patients are different. There's not just one agent that's effective for everybody, and the treatment needs to be individualized.
Well, that is reassuring. It's not what I would have expected.
Well, I will say,
Cool.
I mean, it is a small sample size, but it's also, it's close to evenly split between primary care and psychiatrists, but there are a little bit more psychiatrists in the pool. So that also may have a difference.
And it shows the field sample that the people actually looked at the questions because they gave different answers for different questions. It wasn't checking out the same box every time for all 8.
It is a beautiful distribution. If all my data sets could have that distribution, it'd be nice.
That's right. Andy, a question. I mean, of course, I agree with what you're saying that with the benzos and it's a pharmacokinetic difference. But there's the exception to the rule with the bitter taste in the mouth with Lunesta, right? Any reason why that one's different that we know?
Why does it have the bitter taste?
The other ones don't? Because that argues against that statement you have about the multi-nutrient
That's just with how the manufacturing bill,
No, it does actually.
It does.
It does because
I thought it secreted saliva is what I thought.
but if you crush it, it has it because what happens is it's the next day you can have the bitter taste in the morning. It's not just when the pill is in your mouth. So
Those secreted saliva is my understanding.
yeah, it's secreted back from the blood into the saliva.
Right, so that was one difference in side effects
I
within that category. And it's
So-
dose dependent.
The shorter awakenings with, like, say, the Doras and some of those, does that translate in any way to patient perception that they're not waking up as much?
Well, so you do see some decrease in awakenings with those drugs, but it's relatively small.
Right.
But it does suggest that people view it as being therapeutic. Like I would worry if you decreased like 10-minute awakenings and you made it a 2-minute awakening, would people know? Like they're not 10 minutes; they're decreasing longer than 10-minute awakenings.
Right,
So
to 2 minutes.
yeah, something like that. Would you see that as an
Well,
awakening?
remember Tom used to always say, well, if it's less than 2 minutes, they may not.
Nobody remembers.
Nobody remembers.
But I think
I don't know where he gets his data from, but he always says
right,
that.
but
so.
it doesn't translate into statistically significant improvement in
Okay,
awakenings.
yeah.
You know, Andy, when I was watching your excellent presentation, I couldn't help but fantasize about a world in which we would, where patient and drug-related factors would drive our prescribing habits as opposed to cost and insurance company policy. And I think we all share that frustration. And, to the extent that we could collectively move the needle on that or do something in that regard, that would be meaningful. If publishing this could, that would obviously be, I think, a part of this publication and the conclusions. And,
Yeah. That's
and,
what
yeah,
rubber.
as a goal. I mean, this is a massive container ship that has to be steered and changed, and we don't control these levers of power that we necessarily have to do that, but